Yep. Yep, got it on. Yep. Yep, just a sec. I'm just making my screen on bottom right be able to see how big of a lag time there is between them, so I can edit it later. No worries, just a sec. Right, go on. Hello. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically, I've been creating documentaries for about 3 years since 2017. Started when I joined uh, college, basically, and ever since then, I've done two final major projects during college, both documentaries and some documentaries outside of college, just as extra projects for my personal gain and helping out organisations that I do them for. My first documentary was a tourism documentary around Yorkshire, and my second documentary was a documentary around mental health, stigma, and stereotypes, which both I thought were great things to cover in documentaries that were needed. Oh yeah, definitely. I've done Oh yeah, another documentary we did was growing up within Barnsley itself, quite recently, and then there has been the documentaries I've done outside, which were for a mental health charity called Chili Pep, where I just edited the footage that they had gained over their multiple sessions and events. Yes, as long as I'm given a basic idea or a script that they would like me to go by. Personally, I think I am actually quite a really good documentary maker right off the bat. Now, I believe my documentaries great class. I'm just gaining more experience with organizations, gaining connections, and being able to grow as a reputation, basically. Yes, yes. I was brought on to the last project because I had the experience and he did not have the full experience within the documentary area. He was more around narrative films, basically. Yeah. Basically, the codes and conventions are basically what is expected from the product. And for documentaries, it can be around six different types of documentary. Uh, there, right off the bat, there is linguist, not linguistic. There is expository documentaries, which I believe yours is a perfect one since it's being around history and events and big events that have influenced just how we live today, basically. And the codes, there is technical codes, linguistic codes, and symbolic codes. These are the building blocks of a documentary or any narrative film at all, to be honest. Symbolic is needed because that is what is viewed by the audience and what it means to the audience. Linguistic is the actual content within the subject and how that resonates with the subject and relevance. Then there is technical codes, how it's been filmed, how it's been edited, the types of interviews that have been used, etc. Definitely voice of God for yours, to be honest. That is what people are familiar with. I know yours is around history, but a great one to go off is David Attenborough, as his is more around descriptive, factual, ex yeah. Voice of God is basically a voiceover. Its technical term is voice of God within the industry. It is used so that a presenter doesn't have to be on screen. It can be talking over a shot or a full segment just before an interview, just explaining what's happening and how it is happening. Yeah, yes. And there's archive footage, which is a big part of a documentary, especially one about history, because you can't go back and film these events for your project. So archive footage is needed to show a more visual thing rather than just talking about the event. So researching where to get that, how to get it, and permission to use all of that stuff. Always do a descriptive what you call it, a descriptive release form for anyone that you interview or any subjects within your documentary. That's been the baseline of mine. It's always been helpful to add in that if they are comfortable with you using the footage for future projects. Yeah, risk assessment. Yeah. It, for safety wise, risk assessments are great. You need them to make sure that you've already thought about it so that you're covered if they do happen. The risk assessment will get approved, and then you will be able to go on with your filming. It's basically a legal document at this point. It describes the safety of your crew, yourself, your equipment, and anyone that will be in your documentary or around it. It can you can even put an earthquake in there, which I would actually recommend just putting in there anyway. You never know what's going to happen. If it's in there, you're safe. Weather, big one, especially living in the UK. Then there is trips and falls. That's the most common one ever used. Just in case you trip, you drop your camera, or you trip and fall down a flight of stairs, basically. And then you're covered. Yeah. To me, I have my own personal style. I would film it within segmented parts, so you move on slowly between the subjects. So, say you're moving on through different time periods, but make sure there is a link that links it rather than just a hard cut. Yeah. Uh, don't be afraid to ask for help from uh, peers or um, uh, don't be afraid to ask, not even just for help. Don't be afraid to ask for interviews. Don't be afraid to ask if the person will just repeat this during an interview, or do anything you need them to do to make your image in your head successful. It's never afraid to hurt, and you'll regret it later if you just think of something they could have done and then don't ask it. Yeah, 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 yeah. The technical codes for interviews are pretty simple. There's You need something to record the audio on. You need something to record the image on. Um, uh, Make sure that you can either use a lapel mic that they wear just somewhere near their mouth. At the moment, I am just using my headphones, which have a small mic in the wire. But or you can use a boom mic, which is a big furry thing on the end of a stick. uh, and that would give you more direct quality of the person interviewing. If you are outside, however, you have to account for wind. So get something that has a wind muffler on. Very important. Or it's just going to start crackling up your audio. A linguist, Another code of interviews is how you ask the questions. It really depends on how you want to present the documentary itself, but for me, I prefer them being able to just speak freely in the documentary as if they're speaking to the audience, rather than speaking to a presenter like me or a director or whatever, asking the questions. So yeah, those are a few that I can think of right off the top of my head. No worries at all. Thank you. Thank you for having me.